Mosher Media Podcast.
Welcome back to the Mosher Media Podcast, and welcome to our new series we're going to call Thursday Therapy. And of course, for a lot of guys, there's a stigma about therapy. And let's just put it out there right now that mental health challenges and struggling with your mental health is normal and part of the human experience. And if you know someone who is struggling, and frankly, in this era, in this world, with all that we're faced with and the challenges of the work that we do and the things that we're trying to accomplish in life, certainly at times, maintaining good mental health can be a huge challenge. Maintaining good physical health, your spiritual well-being, all of it can certainly be a challenge. Financial health, every aspect of it can be a challenge. But what I want to do is call this segment Thursday Therapy, and I would like to make an appeal to those out there who are operating a small business, running a business, doing the work that they love, like me, doing something that you're passionate about and that you would be doing whether you need the money or not. You just love what you do and you love the industry that you're in. What I want to do is crowdsource solutions to some of the challenges and problems that we face. My email, dan@moshermedia.com, and I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you as to why you might watch or listen to this podcast. What challenges are you facing? And I believe that a good number of members of our audience, people who subscribe and follow and might watch and listen, are in the creative field. They probably own a business, or they probably work in broadcasting or media or advertising. And even if you don't, we would love to hear from you. And I really would like to put together a collection of the biggest challenges we're facing in business. And of course, if you're a business owner, you wear a lot of hats. You are HR. You are, like me, the salesperson. You're the marketing person. You probably also like some IT and operations, or whatever the core product or service is that your business is providing. You're probably good at it. And you're probably good at recruiting other people who are good at it to work with you. And then at the same time, you're probably good at finding clients that see the value in what you and your team do. You go out and you put it all together, and you somehow find a way to make a living. And so in all of that, there are great challenges and a lot of war stories. And we could probably learn a lot from our audience. So what I want to do is throw it out there that we want to hear from you, and we want to make the entire Mosher Media Podcast, all of the different series and programs that we do, all about offering a solution, maybe some inspiration. I get a lot of ads on social media, on my Facebook or LinkedIn, for companies that will come in and sell for me. For a fee, they will show me how to find new business, run my company, get new clients on retainer. Those that are in the creative services industry probably know what I'm talking about, where you get these emails or these ads on your feed that say, we can find you new clients. Get your clients to pay you a retainer. And buried, I believe, in these discussions, in these podcasts, I've probably given away anything I've ever learned. And of course, it's free. And of course, you know what free advice is worth. Maybe the insight and the tips and tricks and things I've provided, since they're free, are worth just that. That's always a possibility. But I couldn't imagine running a business model where I charge for the, telling people how to get new business. The reality is that information is already out there. The hardest part is just doing it. The motivation to keep it going, the motivation to pick up the phone and call people you don't know, but that's an old school thing, the dialing for dollars, the prospecting, the way you used to do it when you were really hungry for new business, when you had the entrepreneurial spirit, that startup energy that exists. And it's not always in a group of young people. Of course, you always hear the stories of folks that found themselves and made it big later in life, spent their whole life trying to figure out how to make a business work. And I think there's the story of the fella that did Kentucky Fried Chicken, coming up with Colonel Sanders and the KFC and the 11 herbs and spices. Didn't come to that entrepreneur until he was in his 50s or 60s. That just came to my mind. I'll have to Google that to see that if it's true. But I remember that being one of those business cases where this person wasn't 18 or 20, like Mark Zuckerberg, coming up with the idea for Facebook in college. He was much later in life came up with the idea for Kentucky Fried Chicken. But I want to know what's standing in the way of your success, and what do you see as the biggest obstacle to growing or scaling up or taking it to the next level, or maybe even the biggest obstacle to just keeping it in business? And I love the stories also about those who have worked for 20 or 30 years and might be doing it just for the illusion of employment. There is a thing where, let's say you start a business when you're 18, and let's say, just as a hypothetical, let's say you're 51. You've been doing the same thing 33, 34 years, and maybe 10 or 15 years ago you started, I don't know, like a simple IRA or some, just a total hypothetical, not related to anyone that I know, and then that IRA did okay. But it's not something you can touch or withdraw from until you're 62. Maybe you have some other investments. Maybe you own your house and you got this and some other real estate, or maybe another business that you were involved in, and all of those things are going well, but those aren't liquid assets. You're not ready to go off to Florida and lay on the beach for the rest of your life. And if you love what you do, you don't want to do that anyway. But if you're in a situation where you're in your 50s and you really have to keep working, maybe just again for the illusion of employment, maybe because you would be bored sitting at home. I know a lot of retirees that are not retired, and they are in their 70s, and they're still doing what they did their entire career, and they love it. And I one the other day, I said, I thought you were retired. And it's like, no, I love what I'm doing. I'm not sitting at home. And also, if you work your whole life, there's nothing wrong with enjoying your retirement and playing golf and doing all of that. No dig on that crowd at all. I will tell you that I have operated Mosher Media, this business, my entire adult life, and I have now joked that there's such a gap on my resume that perhaps now I'm unemployable. And could you imagine if I went into an employer, a corporate media job, or maybe a job in PR? I'm not even sure what I would apply for, but there's such a gap on my resume. How do you explain? Well, I haven't had a job in 30 years. I mean, I guess, when I was 25, I was bartending. That was a blast. When you're early in your career and you're getting the business off the ground, it's not paying the bills, or you have hopes and dreams, but you need rent money. You bartend, you work retail, you do whatever you need to do. But I have a pretty tremendous gap on my resume, and I think that's okay. And I was talking with someone who I deeply respect and admire. And this person is retired. And this person does so much in the community and at his church and as a caregiver in his family. Just an amazing person. And this person worked for a very large corporation, and it's a company I'm very familiar with, and a company I have done some work for. And I had been in their world headquarters, very major U.S. corporation. And I saw him and I said, we were talking. I said, I could not imagine badging in and badging out and working for a big corporation. I'm just not wired that way. It's just not my thing. And he very quickly said, I couldn't imagine operating a small business where I didn't have the financial resources or the resources to do big things, and how restrictive or limiting that would be. And the challenge of operating a small business with, the big corporation has the large resources to do big projects and to take on big ideas and open new stores or do things, and a small business might not. And boy, it occurred to me, I hope I didn't offend him when I said this, that I couldn't badge in and work for a corporation, because he immediately said I couldn't run a small business because I wouldn't have the resources to run a business. And it just struck me as, why would I say something like that? And I might even cut up this clip and send it to him, because I never apologized. It was just an exchange of thoughts and ideas, and I am certain that he knows how much I respect and admire, because he was extremely successful. And the last thing you want to do this happened probably 10 years ago, as a entrepreneur, is offend somebody you have respect for. So there's that story, and I thought again about cutting up this segment. I knew I'd tell this story, and I thought maybe I'd cut it up and just send it to him as just not to be funny, but just to say, hey, I respect and admire you, and now you get to hear it on video. But speaking of cutting things up, and speaking of maybe learning new things later in life and kind of adjusting with the times, sometimes you need to do what the interns suggest. And for several years now, maybe the past 2 years or so, Our students in our intern program have suggested that all the programs we do and the content need to be cut up and put on Instagram for shorts or reels, and YouTube has shorts, and everything is much better in 60-second clips. And at first I thought what they were trying to say is that I talk too much and that I go on too long. And anyone who listens to these podcasts knows that is absolutely true. So I started to think about, why wouldn't I do what the interns are suggesting? Why do I have to think in my mind that my best advisors need to be much older than me? This is a mistake. You can teach an old dog new tricks, and perhaps it's the next generation of rising stars in the media business and those just coming out of college that are the ones that we should be listening to. So I did start cutting up clips out of these podcasts and putting them 9:16. So here we go. Early in my career, right, TV was 4:3, right? And I was perfectly happy with, of course, the movies are widescreen, and here we are on a widescreen right now, right? Unless you're watching this as a cut-up reel, then it's a 9:16 where it's vertical. It's the aspect ratio just flips 90 degrees. I'm sure most everybody in the audience understands this concept. But many of the old school videographers or television producers or those in media are just like, we're not doing this. We're not, because it makes you think of taking video on a phone. And I'm sure you're aware that many in the professional video production world were adamantly opposed for a long time about anything shot on a phone. Very threatening if you're making your living shooting video professionally on a $20,000 or $30,000 camera and somebody comes along and does a nice piece of video on a phone. This is not good, is the general consensus in the video production crowd. But the reality is that we have to adjust for the trends and the times, and so many viewers are consuming media while holding their phone upright that if you want your video to be seen, you have to conform. You have to take the video and adjust it for 9:16 viewing. And so I started doing it. And I got to tell you, I was disappointed in the success, I should say, because now I have a podcast like this where I talk for 15 minutes. I try to keep it to 15 minutes so I can post it to LinkedIn. And then I watch the analytics and people drop off. But then I'm posting these shorts and reels to Facebook and YouTube as 60-second clips of just sound bites of the stories I'm telling, and a video that got 50 views on YouTube as the full-length version will get 5,000 views as a short. And so, this works. Listen to the interns and listen to those advising you, even if at first you think, I've been doing this 30 years. I know what I'm doing. This can't possibly work because I didn't think about it, or I didn't think of it, or I didn't know about it, and all of that. Adjust with the times and listen to the rising stars around you, because they're the next generation and they're going to take this and run. One of the things that when I throw out, hey, let's look at our biggest business challenges, one thing I always hear is, I can't find crew. I can't find people. And in smaller markets, like here we are in Akron, Ohio, my hometown, what I think is the greatest city on the planet. The second greatest city on the planet is New York City. Love going out there. That's a whole different discussion for a different day. But I stayed in my hometown, partially because of some great clients here, my family, my parents, and a great place to raise kids, and the cost of living here. The list goes on and on, but not what we're here to discuss today. But what I hear is that it's difficult to find crew, and that can be true in a smaller market. If I operated a video production company in Erie, PA, or Des Moines, Iowa, and name any small market, that sometimes in a lot of fields, but in the creative field especially, folks tend to be attracted to New York or LA or bigger markets, Atlanta, Chicago, so on and so forth. And does that make it harder to find qualified talent in Akron, Ohio? So one solution, rather than gripe about it, if this is Thursday therapy and I just come on here and just unload everything that's bothering me, might be a better idea to just talk about the solutions. And I've talked about our student intern program that we put into a nonprofit. We actually created a nonprofit called Akron Community Studios. And the idea is that nonprofit organizations in the Akron area can come in to this facility that the nonprofit raises money to pay for the rent and the computers and electricity and internet and everything you need for students to produce content. And there's a place where, in a creative space, executive directors of nonprofits or people doing great things in the community can come in and work closely with college students. And you get two benefits here. Number one, our college students get outside of the college bubble portfolio material. So we have a college student wants to get into media and they do a short film at the campus. That's wonderful. And I'm sure I watch them. They all look great and they're doing great work. But what some employers want to see are projects that are produced outside of the independent film, student film world, and things they did in the community, or things that have maybe more of a corporate or marketing sort of feel. And doing a video to help promote a nonprofit is a great way to do that. And then, of course, the nonprofit organization gets a video. And they rarely have funds to be doing video content, and sometimes they have somebody internally helping, but it's not a good use of their resources. So it's sort of a win-win. And also, I get a chance in working with these students and bringing in everybody I know to coach and mentor at this program, I get a chance to see how we can coach and mentor those who want to be in this business to make them employable. So rather than say, well, we can't find anybody, this kid's coming out of college, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, what could you do in your business or your industry to be mentoring, coaching, training, fostering? And the problem is that, of course, some business owners feel like, well, I don't want to be doing a lot of free coaching or free training, because what if I'm training an employee or a candidate or an individual who's then just going to go work for my competitor? I don't want to be spending my time to train my competitors' future employees. And it reminded me of my son wanted to go to trucking school. And there is a great need for truckers, commercial drivers right now in the United States. This is a high demand sort of thing. And I don't know a lot about it. But he wanted to go to this trucking school that was a part of a trucking company. And so he called me and said, hey, would you, he's 20 years old. I love him. He's a kid's brilliant and he could do anything he wanted, but he didn't have $7,000. And he called me and said, would you co-sign for the financing for the training at the trucking program? And I thought for a second, well, if it's within the trucking company, why wouldn't they he's got a clean driving record. I let him drive starting at age 15. We have the company trailer, so he would always drive our pickup truck or with a trailer on the back, and he got good at that. We'd go out to the lake in the summertime, and he got good at backing the boat into the water, where I'd be on the boat at the dock, and I'd hand him the key, and he was good at going up to the parking lot and getting the truck and backing the trailer in. And I remember when he was 16 doing that, I thought he'd probably be a good truck driver. It takes a lot of, not everybody can be a truck driver. It takes a lot of ability. Certainly, by the way, truck drivers, best drivers on the road, it's the people in the cars that cause accidents, just for the record. Anyway, that part I do know about trucking. But the trucking school was $7,000. And it occurred to me, why wouldn't the trucking company cover that cost and then just say, hey, we're going to take the cost of that out of your first paycheck, and if you don't stay with us, you'll owe us the money for the training. So I didn't know why that deal didn't exist for him, or is that a thing? But why can't we be doing more to train those who have an interest in whatever industry we are in? And I would love to hear stories of companies, private employers, who have taken the initiative on training, especially in the trades. And I don't want to take away anything from the trade schools, and colleges certainly doing an excellent job educating. But for some candidates, the cost is prohibitive. The lifestyle situations of paying for training while working somewhere else, and if you're not living at home, if you're the housing, and if we all know we got to have food and shelter. This is not something new. But I, through our intern program, love the idea of providing a creative space for those who want to learn. And you say, well, why does it have to be a nonprofit? Why couldn't you just do this in your business? would it be possible at a construction company to have an unpaid intern or a class of people just learning? And I'm going to tell you, not to take away anything from folks in HR or at the Ohio Department of Workers' Compensation. Very important to have workers' comp insurance, of course. And the lawyers, the HR lawyers, all those who worry about liability to business, they do not want anyone in your business working that is not on the payroll. Now, if you have a college student that is doing their required 150 hours, which is what a lot of colleges require, at least in the media business. So if a candidate goes and works at the radio station or the TV station, they're really shadowing. And those opportunities in media typically are not paid because of the tremendous number of students in these programs, and there just aren't really any job opportunities in the media business, radio, television, all of it struggling to begin with to pay the people they have in some cases. So the internships are not paid simply because of supply and demand or any number of issues. And internships are actually going away in media. And I'm wondering if that's the same in other industries. You can't have a person at your business working or shadowing or what have for a long period of time, say a couple of weeks, to do an internship in the summer, if they're not on the payroll or covered or workers' comp. The colleges will accept some of the liability if you have somebody that's actually getting college credit. Some of the lawyers that have advised me and the HR professionals who advise me tell me that it's okay to have an unpaid intern shadowing or observing even if they're not on the payroll, because they are in college, and the colleges, and that the college situation helps to absorb or insulate your business from that liability. But I want to hear your thoughts and challenges on all of this as we work through, we'll call it Thursday Therapy. Let's crowdsource the solutions. Let's make Thursday Therapy a place where we can share our challenges. You can share them anonymously. I'd love to tell your stories or share with the audience things that we're hearing from around the country as far as what entrepreneurs are facing. And not just, a shop like ours with, 6 or 8 employees and a very niche creative field of video production and photography and animation and motion graphic design and corporate video. All of that stuff that we're in is becoming, it's always been very niche. But wouldn't it be fun if we could crowdsource solutions to the problems that small business owners are facing? I'd love to be doing that. And Thursday Therapy could be a place to set up a problem. Let's gripe about it, but let's come up with a solution. Let's do it together. My email, dan@moshermedia.com, and I would love to be doing Thursday Therapy every Thursday, talking about what we can do to make the world a better place, to make our businesses stronger, and to support those who want to come into the industries that we love. And it's very important, I believe, to support the next generation, to see those who want to aspire to be in the industry that we're passionate about. Let's pay it forward. Again, dan@moshermedia.com. Send me an email. Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.
Mosher Media Podcast.